White for GeekNifty down here at GP Vegas in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. With me is Magic the Gathering senior designer Gavin Verhey. Gavin just recently finished up on Battlebond. That came out not too long ago. Gavin, that's a pretty fun but very different set. What was it like working on that?
It was a lot of fun to work on, but also a big challenge because we never made a two-headed giant set before. What did it mean to make a set that was balanced for two-headed giant play? So we had to figure out all kinds of ways to make sure that the game played perfectly, that that the board got cleared up okay, because the board can kind of bog down in two-headed giant. You have 4 players playing, a lot of creatures enter the battlefield. How can we make sure that there's enough evasion, that there's enough removal that your stuff can get through? Similarly, you're only playing a one-game match, so it's really, really important that there are ways to make sure that you and your teammate get to play the game. You don't have mana trouble, things like that. So we put in some cards that affect all players to make it so everyone draws a card. So sometimes you even help out your opponents a little bit, but it helps make the games a little bit better on the whole. And then finally, there's this great mechanic called assist that I love, where you and your teammate can actually pay the mana cost together to cast a spell. So if one of you is mana flooded or one of you is a little light on lands, it's okay because you can both team up to cast one spell together.
Mission Assist, which is a brand new mechanic in Battlebond, but we also have Partner. How did Partner come along?
Yeah, it's a really funny story of how we got here, because when the set was handed off to me from design, the early version of design, to set design, which is what I led, in R&D we kind of have a process where first there's early design work that's done, then it gets handed off to the person who's going to carry it the rest of the way through. It had Partner in there as we saw it in Commander sets, just straight up Partner, nothing else. And there were a few cards that keyed it out. For example, target creature gets +2/+2. If it's a partner, it gets +4/+4 instead. We tried that out for a little while, but there were a couple problems. One was that it was really confusing. Could you use them as your commanders in draft? It says it can be your commander on the card, but there's no commanders in draft. What does that mean? And also, it just didn't do anything in a game of Limited otherwise. And we discovered that we had this new technology where we could put 2 cards in the same pack together. So we're like, oh, this is really cool. And into a giant draft, you draft 2 cards at a time, so it was a perfect fit. So we basically made a riff on Partner so that I could put one in my deck, you can put one in your deck, and then when I play mine, you get to go find yours. They always come in booster packs together, which is awesome. You get these great kind of team-ups of like a kid and his imaginary friend, an angel and a demon fighting side by side. My favorite is the homunculus and the cyclops, which have 2 eyes between the 2 of them. And so in Two-Headed Giant, it's great. I put one in my deck, you put one in your deck. We can both play them at the same time because I play mine, you search it for yours, you drop it on the table. And in Commander, you still get that awesome ability of playing them both as your commander. So it's kind of great for every format.
Before Battlebond, Dominaria came out, and at GP Vegas, Dominaria was one of the main events here. I actually participated, failed miserably. That's okay. You worked on that set as well, along with Mark Rosewater and the legendary Richard Garfield. How was that experience, especially working with the creator of the game on a set based in the original location of the game?
Well, so I have to say, one day my boss comes to me, and he's like, hey, I got an upcoming team. Would you like to be on it? It's Dominaria. And I'm like, whoa, this is going to be awesome. I knew Dominaria was coming down the pike, but to get the chance to be on the team was super, super amazing. And then I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I'm in. Who's the rest of the team? And he's like, it's Rosewater, Forsyth, Richard Garfield, Kelly Diggs, Ian Duke, Ethan Fleischer. These are like the all-stars, some of the all-stars of Magic R&D, and you've Rosewater, and you've got Garfield and Forsyth and some of the people who have really, really dug deep into the game over the years. And I was just ecstatic. So going into those meeting rooms every day or every couple days and being in a room with Richard working on a game together, the person that I grew up wanting to be like as a game designer, it meant so much to me, and I learned so much throughout that process.
And the reception, at least on the player side of Dominaria, and part of it's, I'm looking at it with rose-colored glasses because I've been playing since '94 myself, but just the flavor is amazing. The set is, it seems to be firing off on all cylinders. On the Wizard side, how's the view looking out?
Fantastic. Dominaria has been a huge hit with our players, and it really has done this great job of being something great and approachable for the brand new player. If you're coming in, there's just a lot of sweet cards in there. You've got Lyra Dawnbringer, a big angel. You've got the Black Blade as an awesome sword. But there's also a lot of great stuff for old returning players, nostalgic things. You have Linwar elves coming back. You've got all these great references to Magic's past. And if you don't get the references, that's okay. The cards are still fantastic on their own, but if you get them, if you've been playing for as long as you and I have, then there's a lot of neat little references nestled in there. And it's that kind of duality. We call it lenticular design in design, because the new player sees it and is just like, oh, that's awesome. I don't need to know why Lyra Dawnbringer is really cool. It's here. It's a sweet angel. And then you and I see it and we say, hey, that's a reference to Rhea Dawnbringer. So it's neat that it works for all players on all axes, and I think that's why it's so successful.
And coming up next, we got the Corsets returning with Magic 19, and it looks like you guys are doing a little blend of that as well. I've seen the Elder Dragons are coming back. Nicol Bolas is as an Elder Dragon coming back, but as a dragon, which, as I saw, turns into a Planeswalker, which seems kind of cool. What else can we see in Magic 19? What are the plans for that?
Corset 2019 right around the corner, and I always love the Corset because it feels like a breath of fresh air. It's a great palette cleanser. It comes out, we get to reprint a bunch of really cool cards. You get kind of your staples in for the format for Standard, and if you're maybe returning to the game, you got back in with Dominaria. It really helps you pick up a lot of the staples you're going to want to play for Standard, but also something we started doing with Magic Origins, the last Corset. Now we've brought them back, so we've kind of continued this trend, is tell a little bit of story in it and focus on something. And in this year's edition, we've got to focus on Nicol Bolas. So we're kind of telling Bolas' story, and you see a new Nicol Bolas card and some of the other Elder Dragons in this set, which is really cool. And there's plenty of other fun surprises about Bolas' story in there as well, plus just a bunch of really cool new designs. You have, of course, those great reprints for your collection that are awesome if you're coming back in, but a hearty supply of really new and exciting cards, and some that reference some old favorites, so you'll want to check them out.
A question that I don't know if you can answer, but I think the Vorthos players out there will appreciate me at least asking. Are we finally going to get to see the Elder Dragon Pyrrha?
Time will tell. We stuck to the original Elder Dragons for this set, the ones from Legends, but you never know what might show up in a Magic set. Anything's possible.
I've seen Doubling Season reprinted. I know anything's possible. Now, going beyond that, and you mentioned story. The story will be taking us back to Ravnica for 3 sets, I believe. Why go back to Ravnica as opposed to any other plane, or introduce a new one? And what's the ride we're going to be going on as players?
Well, we know the players love Ravnica. We get this feedback all the time. Ravnica is just one of our strongest and most popular planes to go to because a lot of people grew up with it. So, like, for example, when I was a kid, I played Ravnica, and now I get the chance to work on Ravnica, so it's cool to go through that whole transition. And the guilds are such a powerhouse of just a thing you can latch into. So the guilds, of course, are these 10 two-color combinations of Magic, each with its own identity. So you've got the Orzhov, who are white and black, and you've got the Izzet, who are red and blue. And no matter which 2 colors are your favorite, there's a place for you to kind of fall into. And players really rally behind these guilds and affiliate with them and say, hey, I'm Boros, or hey, I'm Izzet, or I'm Orzhov, or whatever your favorite combination is, and then they build decks with them, they wear shirts with them. I've seen all kinds of great representations of the guilds, and we just see this absolute love for this world, and we decided, hey, let's go back to Ravnica. Players love it. It's time.
And now, coming out here very soon, and I believe within the next 2 months, we have another round of Commander decks, Commander 2018, and I believe you had a hand in that as well?
Yeah, I was the lead designer of Commander 2018, so I finished lead designing Battlebond, shipped that off, and moved right into Commander 2018. And I led design 2017 too, so it was a rush to come back and build 4 more decks for this year's release.
What kind of decks are we looking at? I know, again, only so many specifics you can get into, but what in general can players expect to see here when they come out?
Well, what we've really gotten good at over the years making these Commander decks, we started all the way back in 2011, 2012 with the Commander decks, and we've released them on basically a yearly basis since then. We skipped 1 year while we were trying to catch up because we didn't know they would be so popular, but we've released them on basically a yearly basis since then. And what we've gotten really good at is working with the people who love Commander and focusing on what players like and trying to incorporate that into our decks. So for this release, for example, we worked really closely with the Commander Rules Committee, who is a group that the group that maintains Commander is actually not based inside Wizards. They're a group that's outside of Wizards, and we worked really closely with them to help make sure that this set would be as great as possible. And so we try to do a few things. We have a few cards that are going to be shoring up some holes in decks that are very exciting. We've got a bunch of sweet new legends, and then, well, let's say one card I'm very excited about.
Only one card?
Well, there are many cards I'm very excited about, but there's one in particular that I think you guys will really, really go crazy about.
Gavin, as we wrap this up, is there a little teaser you might be able to give the viewers here? Just Just something to get them on the edge of their seat for the upcoming sets.
Well, here's one thing I will say. So the first two of these Ravnica sets that we've announced are kind of your more traditional Ravnica sets. You've got 5 guilds in one set, 5 guilds in the next set. Each guild has its own mechanic. It's the core Ravnica experience that you know and love, and that's really cool. A few twists in there, too. But the third set, I can't say too much about it yet, but it is something different than what we've seen in the past with Ravnica. So you're going to want to stay tuned because that set is pretty wild. It's going to be a blast.
That sounds good, but you sound like you've been a busy man. What's next for you? Maybe a vacation?
Well, I'm here in GP Vegas having a great time, so naturally my next step is I'm going to go to Grand Prix Singapore next weekend, and the weekend after that I'll be in Grand Prix Barcelona. So I'm hopping the world and seeing Magic everywhere, and I love it. Nothing to me is as great as coming out to events like these, talking with all the players, seeing our game being played, because it really is the greatest game in the world, and I love the community, I love playing it, and I just love being here surrounded by so much Magic.
Gavin, thank you very much, and that does it for me here at Grand Prix Las Vegas for Geek Nifty. I'm Barry White.